It's hard to believe my dad spent the last 4 days of his life laying right there. Hey.
Nice. All you young kids wouldn't get that.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to Ludwig's Garage. In this episode, we finally tackle wiring the 1000 SP. You know, we got this thing running and driving in time for SEMA a few months ago, but it was just enough to keep the thing running, start it from the driver's seat, and drive it onto and off of the trailers, into and out of the shop. So I haven't actually been able to properly drive this car yet. Well, since we're going to Florida with it in just a few weeks for Eurotripper, we're gonna be in Florida where it's not winter like it is here in New Hampshire. So I'm hoping I'll get a chance to drive it down the road for the very first time. And if we're going to do that, we need lights. Brake lights, headlights, turn signals, plate lights, all of that. So in this episode, I am tackling all of the wiring on this car. My father comes by and is an integral part of getting this thing finished in time. Now, this auto union was a 6-volt system in 1960, so we have to address that. We have to convert all of our bulbs inside and out to 12 volt. And we tried desperately to get all of the 1000 SP instrumentation illumination, indicator lights, switches, levers, and stalks all working with the Volkswagen Beetle pan that's underneath this body now. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let's get into getting this car one step closer to driving down the road. What I'm working on right now is getting our alternator line hooked up front to a dummy light so it'll charge. Unbeknownst to me, when I first wired that alternator in, I didn't know I needed a dummy light connected to ultimately close a circuit to make it charge the battery. I'm running this same Type 1 90 amp alternator in the BMW 700, which is also on a Beetle pan. So I'm running this exact same one, but when we installed this, it was when we were wiring the whole car, so we just wired a dummy light into the dashboard when we put this in. So since we figured out the massive motor issues and the car's running better now, I really want to be able to drive this in Florida. Since it's January here in New Hampshire, we're not driving this thing down the road without subjecting it to all the salt. So my opportunity to drive this thing for the first time soon will be in Florida in the next few weeks. So it'd be nice to be able to drive it even after dark if need be. So I'd like to wire up headlights, taillights, but first we're gonna wire up this alternator so at least the battery charges. Because every time I have to run the air suspension and run the compressor in the car, it just eats into the battery. Now, luckily, we're running an anti-gravity lithium-ion battery, which just has so much more storage and longevity than a lead acid or AGM battery does. We're running the U1 battery. But since I've run this compressor a whole bunch, we have killed this battery a couple times. So what I really want to do is not just wire in a random dummy light. I really want to wire in the original factory generator dummy light, which is in our right side gauge pod here with our fuel gauge. We've got our temp gauge, which now that the car's air cooled, we're not going to use. Unless maybe I run like a head temp sensor or something, and we can run like air temperature in the head or something to that. I don't know. But we have our high beam indicator light here, which would more than likely be blue, even for 1960. And you can actually see the designation right there to the right of the bulb. Generator, and then high beam. So I've crawled underneath this dashboard more than once, and it's really difficult to get to all the wiring behind this gauge cluster. And staring at me in the face this whole time were these big old Phillips screws on both sides there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try to break those free, and we'll see if we can pull this gauge pod like cluster here out to gain access to the back of these easier, because up underneath there is quite difficult. Now this car had lots of water in it over the years. Window seals are all bad. I've kept water being in the car in mind, even with this build, with the seats. When I had Nick help me upholster these seats with genuine leather, everything I've painted, everything's bed liner down on the floor. The car will hopefully always have somewhere inside to live, but we're gonna be hauling this to Florida on my open trailer because we're coming home with a second car. And in case I ever get caught out in the rain with it, I wanna just keep the interior kind of waterproof or able to be wet. So that being said, a lot of these fasteners and screws have basically rotted in place, seized in place. So we'll see if we can break these things free and see if that gauge pod can come out a little bit, because that'll help in a huge way. All right, well, anticipating that those screws are not going to want to come out, as you guys saw in a recent episode, we talked about how these Craftsman screwdrivers are hex shaped. So you can put sockets right over them and you get some leverage in case you need it, just in case. But who knows? I've been surprised before. Oh, that was not even tight. What's this one? These are not even tight. I don't know if the head have broken off of them. Nope, they're backing out. Wow, that's incredible. I would have expected these to have been seized right solid. Every time I see a flathead or Phillips screw in any of these cars I've pulled out of the woods, there's no way that's going to loosen up. I bet we need to loosen this up. I don't know what that would be. Oil pressure, maybe? It's a two-stroke. Originally, this is a two-stroke. Would two strokes have oil? But it has a hex on it, so maybe... Oh, it's finger tight. That is finger tight. No way. How is that even possible? That's the indicator right there. And it has some threads on the inside right there, so maybe we didn't break it. Oh yeah, that's free now. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's perfect. I'll lay something on that cover so we don't scratch it up. Nice, easy enough. And yeah, there's a plastic cylinder that this unscrewed from that has threads on it. We have an oil pressure sensor on our oil cooler on that Type 3 motor, so maybe we run that line right to this. All right, so it's the next day in here on a Sunday. So I've put a spade terminal on the actual exciter terminal. And what we need is key power to this to excite the alternator to allow it to charge the battery. So that is gonna come from key power. So I've got that running up to our indicator light, also referred as our dummy light. And on the back side of that bulb, we're going to our key power fuse under the dash. I've got a separate fuse panel under there that's key power only. And that's up under here. So this panel has constant power to it at all times. This one here is key power only. So I'm coming off of my key power post and we're running that to our bulb. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna turn the key on and hopefully that'll light up, which will mean we now have 12 volt power to our alternator. And then what we can do is actually start the car and make sure that goes out, which will mean the alternator's charging the battery. Also, I need to plug this. This is the Power Probe PP3. And this thing is the most invaluable tool I've never had until now. And what the PP3 does, and it does much more than this, but this allows you to confirm ground and confirm power, but also send ground and send power through this momentary switch here. It's pretty incredible. It's got different tips that you can put on it. It's got like an 18-foot lead out of the box with an extension lead. So you can basically run this end to end in a bus. Actually, you'll probably see us run this thing in the flexible clipper bus at some point this upcoming spring. Key on. Yes. If we turn the car on now, hopefully we'll get that to go out. Okay, key is on. Oh, it's working. Amazing. Well, that's hurdle number one crossed. All right, so next day, we're working on lighting as well with this whole wiring project going on. And one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of this episode is the fact that this car was 6 volt from the factory. 1960 Auto Union, all 6 volt. So all the bulbs that were around this car, including the cluster bulbs we had 12 volts to yesterday, are all 6 volt bulbs. So we gotta swap everything out to 12 volt bulbs so we don't burn them all up. with a 12 volt system now. So all of our bulbs have to coincide with the voltage we're running through the car. So all the cluster indicator lights, I'm gonna have to swap out for 12 volt ones so we don't completely cook them. And that's what we're doing right now up front. These are a new Hella H4 headlight that I've put in the car, so these come with 12 volt bulbs already. But down here in the marker, where I have these beautiful new old stock Euro markers, this 1000 SP had amber lights. These ones were amber from the North American market, but these are the Euro ones. Inside those, we have two different bulbs. We have our parking light and we have our blinkers. And since those were both 6 volt, we're now replacing them with 12 volt bulbs, but also making sure the fixtures and the wiring coming out of the fixtures are still good. Yep. Now that's an 1156.
Yep.
Is the main port right there, which will be our blinkers. And then that small housing right there will be our parking light. And I don't believe I had. Is that a better spot for it? Oh, there we go. Couldn't tell if that was high or low beam. It looked high. Oh, yeah, that's low beam.
Oh.
High beam. So inside the fender well here, you'll see the wiring that comes out of the back of the headlight bucket and then comes down to the parking light and blinker bucket. And then it heads through the inner fender right there into what used to be the engine bay. And so when I first started building this car, I just cut them off right there to have enough to get at, which luckily is working. So we just put power and ground to that, and we have those working. We just don't have a 12 volt bulb to put in there. We could put the 6 volt ones in and just,
They might, sometimes they'll pop instantly.
yeah, the gauge cluster ones didn't.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
And we've got low and high beam to our H4s. So at least this plug and its pigtails are still good.
Everything's connected, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that plug certainly looks like 1960 Germany. So we're going to take some of our Multimax blaster here, which has a great dielectric property to it. So we can use this on electrical connections. A lot of people probably have their own preference, but we're going to use this. We'll spray a little bit of this in there. Been using this around the house too. Not a single hinged anything in the house makes a noise anymore. I went around the whole house with this stuff. Yeah. Nothing makes noise. Drawers, doors, everything in between. Yeah. Not even the boy. I sprayed him down with it too.
Yeah,
although he does still make a little bit of noise though.
Yeah.
Will not work on shop foremans. Yep. Yep. Those are two different wires.
Yep.
I don't have it pointed right at me, so it's not going to blind me. Oh, yep. Oh, yeah, there we go. We just need a 12 volt. Yeah, boy, those Hella H4s do their job. Wow. We'll just have to get a 12 volt, a little guy.
1895.
1895 is what that takes for a 12 volt. That little guy right in there. So we'll run to the store. I do have some 1156s, 1157s, which I think we'll use for the taillights. The biggest win though is those pigtails work.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
the plugs work,
Yeah.
and we can tie right into those harnesses and run right to the dash.
The sockets, if that's what they are good.
Yeah, yeah. Brand new headlights, so those should work. Not down with the whole LED thing, so using filament bulbs where I can, because this is an old car, so it needs to have that old headlight look. Now we'll get the taillights off, which, if you guys have been on the channel for a while now, you know that the second I started working on this car, I kept taking the taillights out of it, because I couldn't afford to break a taillight, since these things are rare as hen's teeth. Well, an 1157 go in this. There we go. I got it. Yeah.
Dual contact, offset pins.
Yeah. Yeah, offset. Yeah, 1157, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna set these
Let's set this right up here. That's the left side. Spray some of this in there. It's bizarre looking when you take the taillight off. It's just part of the body and just a little bucket for a taillight. 3 holes for the studs, that's it. All right, so this is a look at the back of the driver's side taillight. You can see those wing nuts basically hold on our fixture, like our bucket, for lack of a better term. And those wing nuts thread down over these welded on studs. So that bucket comes off towards us inside the car. And those studs are just kind of tack welded to the body of the car. These ones were stuck, so we sprayed some blaster on them. And what I'm doing now, if I can hold this camera with one hand in here, what I'm doing now is I'm using these needle nose pliers to fit over the wing nut like that and loosen them up because they're still a little too stiff to get off by hand. Luckily the studs stayed put and didn't break off their little welds. All right, we got one off. There we go. Now you guys obviously can't feel how heavy this is, but these are incredibly heavy. I don't know what kind of rare earth materials Germany was using. Recovered UFO alien alloy. All right, so amidst the 12 volt from 6 volt conversion, needing to switch out all the bulbs, we ran and got a series of 1156s, actually, which I already had here. I had some 1156s here, which we're using up front. The headlights already had bulbs. We got some 1895s, which are the small bulbs that will be our parking lights, driving lights. But the lights we couldn't quite figure out were the dash lights. They have the mounting tabs in the middle of the body, not at the bottom, like most lights. And all it took was Googling Volkswagen Beetle 12 volt dash lights. And these popped up because these here are the 6 volt. And if you are curious, I mean, you can Google it. These, which are normally 6 volt, the 12 volt version is a 177 222 or a 3898. So I ordered 6 Hella 3898s. So we're gonna put some actual Hella ones in. So they should provide the appropriate color light that this car would have had from the factory. There's nothing worse. And I was telling my father this, when I bought the Porsche 924S that we did the giveaway for, someone had done new dash lights, new gauge cluster lights in that, and they put LEDs in it. And there's nothing worse than being in a 1980s German sports car and have bright, pasty white gauge lights, not that cool yellowish vintage hue, as it were. So made sure we get the right lights for that. So that will hopefully be in tomorrow, and we'll get the dash lights in. All right, so before anyone gives me a hard time about my 70-year-old dad being the one underneath the dash there, I can't get enough of some of the people being like, you make your dad do all the work. Well, someone has to film it, right? Like there'd be no video or photos of any of this if I didn't pick up the camera. Every now and then he'll pick up the camera, but I'll ask him to. So we're working on figuring out what on earth in this car does what. There's no labeling whatsoever. And when you have one of only 5,000 cars ever made and only about a dozen known to exist in your country, not a lot of information on the internet tells you what's what, right? So, while my dad's under the dashboard, these are just random buttons, no labeling. After watching a random YouTube video of a guy with an Auto Union 1000, not an SP like this one, he started the car by turning the key on and then pushing that, which means that starts the car. News to me. So what we're doing now is trying to figure out what on earth the rest of these do. So out of the rest of the 3 of these, or the 4 of these, we found what is most obviously a light switch, but it only has one pull position, right? So it's off, on.
Right.
Some headlights will have off all the way in, parking lights, and then headlights, right? So it'll have 3 positions all the way. It'll be off, parking light, headlight. This does not. It only has 2. It's off and then pull. What else we're trying to figure out is the stalks. Normally, here in America, our blinkers are on this side, right? Or most left-hand drive cars, the blinkers on the left stock. Right-hand drive Japanese cars, the blinkers on the right. On also some old Triumphs too. Old Triumphs and UK cars, the right side drive, blinkers on the right. Well, this over here only has two positions, up and down, and they're park in both, right? They're not momentary. This stock has three.
That's definitely directional.
Exactly.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So this has three, and it's got middle park and then down and then up, right? So we figured, okay, that's blinker. We can figure that one out. What we just figured out, my dad's under there. We've got power going to
Headlight switch.
yes,
or
or
light switch.
a light switch of sorts. We have power going from our jump pack into this, right? So
have
there's our power.
And there's power that comes out of it, and I turn it off and it goes off.
Okay, so switch in, no power, pull out, we've got power coming out of it. What we just figured out now, so I should back up. I have a German PDF file of an old scanned Auto Union or DKW workshop manual. So I'm clicking on things and then going to German to English translation, trying to figure out what's what. This here, this on-off stock here, in German, translates to daytime flashing lights and normal position. All right, so working here at the back, have a few wires run. We've got our alternator exciter light or exciter terminal wired in. I've got my oil pressure sensor wired into that, all into the same loom. We're gonna go underneath that frame rail and ultimately down underneath the car, up to underneath the dashboard. And before we run that, what we're gonna do is work on taillights. So now I'm working from driver's side taillight, plate lights, there's two of them, to the passenger side taillight, and then we'll run everything together forward. Which led me to the plate light housing situation. Now, this car sat outside for decades, and as you can imagine, the flathead screws that hold this plastic plate light tub or bracket in are disintegrated, and there's two of them. Now, I went up and checked the DKW Junior, the 750, and they do indeed share the same exact plate light housings, exactly the same. And the Junior has two of them as well. Now, that Junior sat inside for 63 years. It might as well be a brand new car in some respect. And those plate light housings are perfect. And I'm not going to rob those ones. But what it does make me think is the parts 750 I have might have better plate light housings than this one does. We're going to move forward with these since we're right here in the parts 750s over at my dad's shop. So I'm cutting the bolt heads off. Well, the actual inside is what I'm cutting off because these are plastic and they're already falling apart. So I'm not getting anywhere near these with heat. And you can't really drill them out well either with the bumper on. And I don't feel like taking the bumper off when I can just get in there and cut them. We're gonna get these things taken apart and hopefully cleaned up enough to where we can get signal to them and illuminate some plate light bulbs. Also, my dad's back under the dash. It's a new day. He's got his headlamp.
New day, got a new light.
Yeah, headlamp. We're up in the air a little bit, so he's got his scaffolding set up. Might find him asleep here soon, at least I would be if I was in there laying down. And speaking of sleep, wanted to make sure you get the snoring on camera. Shop foreman has checked out for lunch. All right, well, we got the plate lights out. As you can see, they are not in great shape. Actually, this one's in far better shape than this one. This one's all broken, cracked. We're gonna run with them for now. We're gonna knock these screws out and we'll just make them a through bolt since I cut the threaded, welded in, like captive nut in the car that these go into. Decided I wasn't even gonna bother trying to tap into what are now pigtails that come out of the connector in here, because it looks like it's basically exposed enough to where it's rubbing on the bracket in which the bulb grounds out on the chassis. So I've patiently worked this set screw free that holds the wire in, but I have it moving now. So hopefully the other one will loosen up and we can just put a whole new wire in there. We've got that freed up. This should pull out. There we go. My father finally figured out the 6 wires going to the original blinker stock on the steering column. There was 6 wires going to it. We didn't know what was coming, what was going, what was staying, what the deal was. So he got in there with a test light and some 12-volt power and just went to town on it. And we finally figured it out. He drew up this little schematic. So first and foremost, it's really cool that he took the time to do this because it's a right side blinker on the stock for a left-hand drive car. It's really cool because it's, you know, you don't see that a lot over here in America. So we were really trying our best to get that working. And I will say you got them all the contacts work.
Yeah, the switch works fine.
Yeah, which is...
Everything's functioning, yeah.
That was step number 1. Step number 2, the hardest step was figuring out why it did what it did.
Yeah, I didn't know their purpose behind all those wires, which ones were coming in, which ones were going out. Yeah, this is just kind of a quick breakdown for you seasoned technicians. This is probably not new to you, but I'll kind of go through some of the basics. I may forget some stuff, but we'll see. We'll call these your light bulbs in the rear, and they're an 1157 bulb, which is a dual filament that has one low watt filament and one high watt, one being for parking light or running light, and the other one is for your blinker and stoplight. So out of our light bulbs, we bring our parking lights out, and they tie together to go forward to the car. The case of your bulb goes to ground. Then the directional is a separate circuit, which also is shared with your stoplight. So now moving up front to the directional switch, we have 6 contacts in there like this. This line here coming in comes from the flasher, which is a 3-terminal flasher. This one is load, it goes to the switch. This one is battery power that comes in. This one here goes up to a light bulb in your dash for your
Indicator.
signal. Yep. Now when you turn your blinker on, this is neutral. In the center, we'll call it neutral. Up is going to be left. Yeah, I'm laying under the dash looking at the back of this and looking towards the back of the car. So when you bring this up, it'll be for the left side.
Right, yeah.
That one there is left rear, and this one is left front. Then when you switch it down, this one here is right rear, and this one is right front. Now that is all great until you step on the brakes. Now, if you've got the blinker on, it needs to keep one blinker working and one brake light working. This terminal here is the power coming in from the brake light switch. When you step on the brake light switch, it powers this terminal and that terminal. Those are both rear. If you turn the blinker on, it will cancel one of those for this power and pick up the power for whichever side you're going to. If you're going left, it'll pick up this power to go to the rear to blink that light but keep your brake light on the other side if I'm not losing everybody. So without the blinker being on, you step on the brakes, power goes here and here to the rear, left rear, right rear, goes back, turns on both brake lights.
Your brake light signal ultimately goes through
Goes through the switch,
blinker
yeah.
stock.
If you move this up to left, it will cancel that one for left rear.
But continue to power right rear.
Right.
Yeah.
And it will cancel the brake to it, but it will pick up
The flasher.
the flasher.
Yep.
So it'll start blinking that bulb. So the magic happens in that little box right there.
And it took quite a bit to figure out what exactly
What all
that
6 did. That's right. Yeah. When
Yeah.
I was putting the power probe to it, I was getting power here. I'd move the lever and I'd lose it, and yeah. So that's kind of the basics.
I'm really grateful that he took the time, the weather patience required to trace all that back. Because not only has he figured out how to wire all that stuff, we've
traced the wires to the original flasher port. We've put a new flasher in there, figured out where all the wires go so we're not powering something that might be cut somewhere else under the dash. We've made a huge stride in that department. So now what we're working on is bringing all the wiring to that, essentially.
Yep.
Well done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll think of this every time I use that turn signal.
Yeah.
That's what people don't think. Like, I'll think about all of this every time I make a turn in this car.
Yeah. Well, it's great that switch is still working.
That's the other thing. That's what I started with, is that switch still works, which is incredible.
Yeah.
So last night, ran my wiring harness up the passenger side of the car alongside some conduit that we welded in as kind of like our channel for all of our wiring to the motor. So I brought all that wiring up, brought it into the inner fender well here, and I'm going to affix it right up in that bit of contour there. And then it passes through a grommet. I enlarged a hole, like a factory hole, right there. Not much light, but there's a grommet and the harness goes through right there. And my father's under the dash now, putting some temporary power to the harness I ran up in there, just to make sure we did things right. And so we've got our bulbs in. Now, I did mention I only have one plate light working right now because the actual bucket of this plate light is broken, just too rusty and broken. So we'll replace that at some point. So we've got one working and we've got bulbs. So as you can see, we've got right side, our one plate light, and our left side parking lights working. And so with the parking lights on, we've got our right blinker. And we've got our left blinker, which is also obviously our brake lights, since this is a dual filament 1157. So we have lights to the back. Now I ran a line to this plate light. So once I get that replaced, we'll have power right there as well. That harness we ran up also has our alternator light and our oil pressure, which we will wire into a new light at some point. Because I didn't even mention this on camera yet, that light in the top center of the gauge pod that has the plastic isolator in it, which we would assume would be oil pressure, isn't. And I thought about this off camera. That's got a plastic isolator in it, and the oil pressure sensor would run off the ground. So you wouldn't want the housing of the light to be grounded on the chassis because it would be on all the time. So I just assumed it was oil pressure. But I thought to myself, it was a two-stroke car from the factory. So how would they gauge oil pressure when your oil is just mixed in with your fuel and going through your carburetor and there's no oil pan? It's just a crankcase. But since my dad's been under the dash, tracing all the lines for the blinker, he had asked if there was a blinker indicator light anywhere. Once he started tracing wires, they went up to that light. So we have basically kind of theorized that light is a blinker indicator light that works off of a ground because it's insulated in plastic. And this being a two-stroke car from the factory, indeed does not have an oil pressure light because it's a two-stroke. That's an update on that. So we are going to wire that top light, top center of the gauge pod there, in as our blinker indicator. And then I'll just, since this is a Beetle powered car now, I'll wire in like a light, who knows, maybe into this port or something. Later on, I'll figure out where to put an oil pressure light so I can indeed keep an eye on loss of oil pressure while driving. All right, so here's the routing of the passenger side front wheel well. The other side, the airlines come in just like this. So there's a sense of symmetry to the front and rear, like harness and airline routing. This is the easiest way to get into under the dash as well. There's nowhere else I could come up through the floor. So pretty happy with that. Just got a couple guides here and up and through a grommet I drilled in last night. Yeah, so that should be that. Next, we're going to work on getting the front harness from the headlight, blinker, parking light on the driver's side, which is already crossed over. We're coming up here and we're gonna go in there. So I need to drill a bigger hole, put a larger grommet.
Well, that worked. All right, so if you guys saw the beginning of this project when I pulled the 3-cylinder motor out of what used to be this engine bay, you'll remember that along the inner fenders here on both sides are these big metal bendable, basically harness guides, essentially. And I left them deliberately just in case, even though we were swapping this to rear engined, just in case we wanted to run harnesses up along some sort of frame rail, which I have put in here now. So I'm glad I did, because we're running all of our looming for the air suspension, for the lighting, everything up these original Auto Union harness guides. Now that I've got a hole drilled in the side of what used to be the battery box here, behind the fuel cell, so it's kind of hidden, I've got all of our wiring passed through it. And so now I'm just kind of tidying everything up. Also, best investment I've made in a long time are these flush cut zip tie cutters. I don't know why I hadn't searched for and bought any of these before. I think it just took 100,000 gashes on my fingers and hands from zip tie cutoffs, reaching up underneath your car, which you all know is the worst. I'll leave a link in the video's description below. I bought a case of like 25 of these for dirt cheap on Amazon. So there's an Amazon link in the video's description below. Go buy these. I literally have a box full of these things. I'll leave the link below where you can go find some. Anything you guys buy through any links in the descriptions in these videos directly help the shop here. All right, we're up in the air now, and my dad's gonna work standing up for now because I am underneath trying to figure out where we're going to put my brake light switch. So I'm going to be running a hydraulic brake light switch. Super simple. Got to plumb it into your brake lines so the brake fluid pressure turns it on, essentially. So we're going to have constant power to one terminal and then our switch signal coming out of the other terminal, which will go to our brake lights. So I have an extra T here, and that's what we're going to be plumbing in. I thought about in the back, but we're going to do it up front because we need to run our wiring. We need to send fused power to it and then our signal out, which will ultimately go to our blinker stock because that is controlling the power and signal to the brake lights. So you guys may remember a few episodes ago, we got the front brake lines made and ultimately all 4 brakes working. And I think that's where we're going to plumb our brake switch in. We're going to do it right up there where that passenger line comes from this T and goes over the tunnel to the passenger side. So I think right there at the top of the tunnel is where I'm going to cut that line and put our T in with our brake light switch at the top. And that way we don't have far to go with our wiring. All right, well, I've got my line cut and we've got our handy dandy Eastwood flaring tool out now. And basically cleaned up our lines. I'm gonna flare these first and then bend them into place. So we need a straight section of line, straight enough to get through our die here, but also enough to have a fitting on the other end, because you can't forget your fitting. You flare this thing without putting the fitting on, we now have to make a whole new line. I swear, flaring brake lines could not be easier with this tool. So we've got our line split, flared, fittings on. Didn't forget that. So the idea is, if this is the tunnel, we're coming up out of our T for our front brakes, coming up over the tunnel to our passenger side front. And right here at the top of the tunnel is where we're gonna put our T with our brake switch on the top. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna thread these in, and then bend them down accordingly, but just do it by hand. All right, so while fitting our new two-piece front brake line with a brake switch and a T in the middle, this T had a really big eyelet as part of the brass cast on the bottom, like a real big eyelet so you could mount it. And since I wasn't mounting it to anything, I think the two brake lines coming off of our welded on brake line guides that go to the hoses will be enough to keep this thing floating. The eyelet was actually sitting too high up off the tunnel, and our terminals here were touching the bottom of our trunk floor, but also because of how high it was sitting, I wasn't able to get both lines to line up perfectly. I just cut the eyelet off, kind of smoothed it out a little bit, and we're gonna go refit it and hope that we can get everything plumbed in. We have our brake switch successfully plumbed into our now two-piece front brake line system, and cutting that eyelet off that T is just what it needed to sit just right over the tunnel. Now that everything's all plumbed in and tight, it's pretty rigid in that line and didn't need to get mounted. So now what I'm doing is I am working with this 2-wire bonded 18 gauge wire. Just put our terminals on them, gonna heat shrink these, and this will be, one of them will be power to the switch, and then the other will be our signal out of the switch, which will ultimately power the brake lights. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this through the hole that I put our rear harness through on the passenger side inner fender here. I do believe I can get that through the grommet. Been using this cool power probe butane torch. We'll put some miles on this thing. Nice. All right, I heard a groan and then happy day. So I went from sad to optimistic real quick.
Okay, watch this test light. And when I push the factory starter button,
Oh, wow. Wow. Did you mess with it at all?
I might have fixed a wire or something that went to it accidentally.
So when we were wiring this to start, because there was nothing, right? When we were racing to get this thing operational for SEMA, bare bones, start it from the driver's seat, be able to drive it. This car was a push button start from the factory. We got the original key to work in the original ignition cylinder and turn power on, but we couldn't get the original push button to work. We figured it was just all corroded or whatever. So we wired in a little push button the same size as the factory one under the dash. You can't even see it. And the plan all along was to work our hardest at getting all the original stuff to work. So apparently, while he's been under that dash, while I've been under the car, it seems to have been able to get power through that thing. You think we could just transfer the lines over?
Oh, yeah, right here. All you gotta do is just, they're right here, just swap them over.
In this top one in the middle, that's the factory push button start. And I only know that because I watched a video of a guy starting an Auto Union 1000, and they have the same orientation of knobs there, and he pushed that to start, and I was like, that's what starts the car, because there's no labeling at all.
No, there's labeling now.
Yeah, yeah. That is indeed happy day. Hey,
Yeah.
hey. I knew he'd get it. All you young kids wouldn't get that. Hey.
Did you give a thumbs up?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Yep, we got power. Wow. Hey.
Nice. Happy day.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Nice.
To start this car from that original switch is going to be really cool.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe my dad spent the last 4 days of his life laying right there.
Yeah, I can't walk anymore. But.
All right, next day yet again. We've got the car down off the lift and actually aired out because we believe this will be the easiest way to work under the dash. Most simply because the car literally touches the ground when it's aired out, and you basically just lay on the ground. So to save my back and my father's back, we figured this was the perfect formula
for working under the dash, since it's literally only like a 4-inch rise from the floor to where you're laying under the dash. It's just a matter of getting back up onto your feet at this point.
And you can open the doors all the way.
That's why we rolled it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we rolled it back beyond the lift so we could air it out and open the doors all the way. I'll never get sick of seeing this car aired out, that's for sure. This has been a full week project. It's crazy the amount of work we've had to put into this whole thing. Just starting to route all of our harnesses in a tidy fashion. Basically labeled all the wires that come from the flasher, the high beam switch, the high beam stock essentially, headlight switch, all that stuff. And now we're basically finishing up this wiring by connecting all that to all of our new wiring and power and key power, steady power. As most of you guys know, there's a 2-level floor to this shop. And Silas, the shop foreman, has had a broken back in his past, and walking for him is miraculous. Well, he has leapt down this before, seems to have taken it okay, but at 13 years old, we try to minimize his parkour activities. So now that we've got the car down on the floor and pushed back a ways, he's wanted to come down here because my father and I are laying on the floor on both sides of the car. So I brought his bed down here so he'd stop crying. While laying on the floor, I felt something on my legs, and he had worked his way over behind the doors, up over my legs, and into the passenger seat so he could keep an eye on things while we are literally laying under the dash, wiring stuff in. I'm over here working on this side. And yeah, Silas had to come in here, and I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of tools and stuff, hardware, underneath his body right now that I need to get to. Silas, what are you doing? Hey.
Silas, pass me the black tape.
Yeah. Quality control. All right, well, we have most of the under dash stuff wired. Most everything. We've got a lot of mess to pick up. Pretty simple setup under here, but tried to make it as tidy as possible. We got our fuse panel that has constant power to it, and then we've got a key powered fuse panel with just a few things that are key powered. But we've got a couple relays, and oh, here comes the shop foreman making sure I'm doing my job. What do you think? And so kind of just chose the center under the dash to put all of that, because from the factory, the fuse panel was under the hood in the front. And I really didn't want a bunch of wiring under there. I wanted as minimal wiring under the hood as possible. Going to swap out all of the illumination and indicator bulbs from our 6-volt to 12-volt. And yeah, and then get that thing put in. I think we're ready to test all the lights. We've been testing them, but test them all from our stocks and switches and turn the car on and make sure the battery's charging. That's gonna be huge. Also, this whole time I've been worrying about breaking something, and I'm the one who broke my suspension controller stand, which was only acrylic welded. I was just being careful with it, but I did elbow it real hard, so got to redesign that. I thought about making this out of metal, so it was all welded together, but it is nice when it's nice matte finished acrylic. I think I'll make a few pieces that'll protrude down into this base piece, make some holes, and it'll sit down in the holes, so I can almost like plug weld them together. That's why that is sitting off to the side, because I'm sure someone will notice that. It wasn't the boss when he was laying in the seat. It was indeed me. All right, so we're down to one last bulb, but I wanted to show you guys before we got done here. This is gauge speedometer illumination. This is clock
illumination because it has a really cool analog clock that's probably 6 volt, and it would probably jump ahead and time travel with 12 volt power put to it. This year's our new alternator exciter line to our 12 volt bulb. Just put a 12 volt bulb in this gauge illumination bulb. Then this one over here is our high beam indicator, the blinker indicator. We already have a 12 volt bulb in that. All right, so you want to connect to that and I'll tip it up.
What's that?
Yep. Ooh. Oh, wow, just the needles light up. We lost connection. There we go. Yep, there we go. No, oh yeah, there we go. We need to do this with the lights off once we get it all put together. Wow. Yeah, that looks amazing. It's just the needle, just the indicators of the speedometer are what illuminate, because there's a paper or otherwise plastic or metal plate in there with the bulb behind it. That is really cool. It's been so much work.
Oh yeah.
It's been so much work. When you're doing it from scratch and trying to figure out what the old wiring does.
Right, yeah, where it goes, and there's no schematic to work off of.
No, and I do have a DKW Junior schematic, but it wasn't quite the same as this.
Right, yeah, the colors were different.
Yeah, colors are different, and some of the switches are different. Nice. Okay. Let's put some lenses on, some lights. All right, well, I've got the gauge cluster put back in. Just turned the key on to air the car up and roll it forward so we can put the tail lights on. But as I turn the key on to let the air suspension charge up, look at what we got here. That is our generator light. It's after 5 o'clock and he's so ready to go home.
Like, yeah, he's not paying overtime.
He's done sleeping. He's barking orders. It's a Friday too, so he's.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah.
You got a hot date tonight?
He's put in all the overtime hours with us this week, so he's ready for the weekend. Look at him. Look at him. He's thinking about rolling. You rolling? Oh. Actually, with no key on, right? That should.
Right, should be right straight. Yep. This parking light's not working.
All right, so we've got low beams on. Shop foreman has had enough. He's ready to go home. This left front small bulb parking light wasn't turning on, so we tried to reconnect it by wiggling it, essentially, and it killed all the lights, and we popped our fuse. So we put another fuse in, reconnected the bulb, killed all the lights again, popped the fuse. So we've pulled that bulb all together, wondering if that was grounding out and causing a short and popping the fuse. I think that was probably what our problem was, because the lights are staying on now.
Right.
Check this out. This is the coolest part of the whole thing. The tail lights. This is the first time I've ever seen these bulbs illuminated in this car. Actually, it feels like it's alive now.
Oh yeah.
Like it's run and moved under its own power, but now it feels like it's alive. That is so cool.
All right, you want to see a blinker?
All right, key on, and want to try some blinkers?
Yep.
All right, generator lights on, as it should be. All right, so this should be right side blinker. Wow.
You're blinking.
Indicator's working. You can hear the flasher working. And left blinker. Indicator's working.
Yep.
And I see the reflection up front.
Yeah, they're working out here.
All right, so keys on, lights are off, left blinker's on, and right blinker. Boy, it's amazing seeing those new old stock Euro markers light up. And then I can see the reflection on the door. We're having our anti-gravity battery supercharger help us out here. Right blinker. Well, it's great. And
Ready?
brake lights, no key on. Yep. Yep, brake lights are on. Wow, it's a beautiful thing.
All right, the blinker with the brake light.
Nope. Yep. Yep. We don't have a pedal because we haven't bled the brakes yet. Yeah, right blinker on with left steady brake. Yep. Right brake steady with left blinker on. Yeah, that works. Yeah, now both brake lights. We haven't bled the brakes yet, so the pedal's pretty far throw right now, but. Yep, parking lights on and then brake. Perfect. Yep, parking lights. Parking light and right blinker. Parking light and left blinker. Yeah, wow, oh, and plate light. The one. We haven't wired that one up yet, but. All right, so it seems like my father found a possible issue as to why we kept blowing fuses with that bulb.
Outside is ground. The outside of your bulb, all of this is ground. This end here is positive, and it presses on this little brass strip, while the corner of that is touching
The
this.
body.
Can you see it there?
Yeah.
And I think it just needs to be pushed over. I think if that screw was loosened up, that tab could be pushed over. Yep. Yeah, it's on.
the fuse yet. That's probably why it's popping the fuse.
It definitely was.
Yeah.
And we're lucky that we were able to go right to it immediately.
Yeah.
Say that's it right there.
Yeah, seriously, not search under the dash for an
Yeah.
hour.
Perfect. Right?
Wow.
So we got the lens back on. Fuse didn't trip. Everything seemed to work as it should. Now we're going to turn the car on. Yeah, and check to see if this alternator is charging the battery now that we have the exciter.
All right, we got 13 volts.
Oh yeah, I forgot we can start this thing with the factory button now.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. Yep. And the dummy light went out too.
Yeah.
Nice. The coolest part is being able to start that thing from the factory button.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's good.
So cool.
Glad we got that working again.
That is so cool. I think we figured this thing out.
Yeah, just got to get the dash lights going.
Yeah, okay, so that's the other thing. When we got the dash lights going, we were using our sole, like an isolated power source. So I'm going to get under there and hook up the wire that we know is going to all of those. So that's the only thing that isn't like turnkey right now when you turn the lights on, but will be very soon. Well, huge thanks to my father for all the help this past week. I think you've put a solid 40 hours in with me, maybe even more this week.
Yeah.
It is Friday,
Yeah.
and this video is going to be up Sunday, so I've got a ton of editing to do from here. But I'm just glad that this was a win. We didn't have to cut this thing short. Other than the instrumentation dash lights, that's easy. We've already seen them work. And other than that, we have working lights in this thing. And we're charging the battery when it's running.
Yeah, he's ready for the road.
Man, that's real crazy that we are some transmission fluid away from driving this thing down the road.
Bleed the brakes.
That too. Got to bleed the brakes.
Bleed the brakes and start it and run it.
Incredible. All right, guys, next morning, I'm just cleaning the shop up, and I've got my anti-gravity battery charger on the U1 battery since we had to use the jump start feature in that battery to finish diagnosing all of the lights and getting our short issue sorted out. So that's a really cool feature of that anti-gravity battery. So I've just been charging that up now, and now that it's daylight out and actually snowing yet again, love it. I think we'll turn the shop lights off
and go through our lights on the 1000 SP to just see what it looks like properly in a dim lit setting with all the illumination working. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it just seems more alive with the lights on. It just seems like it's got consciousness in some weird way. I think this is the move here with the lights off during the day. And the coolest part is we can use the original headlight switch to turn the headlights on. Man, how cool is that? The camera does absolutely no justice to show how red those taillight lenses are. Torpedo, bullet, it just exaggerates that fin and those taillights more. Up front, it would have been cool to just have those bullet lights on separate from the headlights, but it's really cool that we were able to use the original headlight switch to operate them. Man, so cool. So our high beam stock, originally from the factory, amazing. Well guys, that is the 1000 SP just about wired up. We've got all of our lights done, still need to get a plate light fixed, still need to get the gauge pod illumination plugged into the parking light switch. Small stuff, but a huge, huge step in this car getting done and ready to drive on the road. I can't thank my father enough for coming by every day this week and helping me with this, figuring out all of the old wiring, getting all of that sorted out and working again. Such a win for this car. So stoked to hopefully drive this thing in Florida in just a few weeks. Euro Tripper, February 7th. I think they're having like a pre-meet going on February 6th, that Friday. Fort Myers at JetBlue Stadium. We're gonna be there. We're gonna try. My 30-year-old OBS has to get us down there. So get down to South Florida to Fort Myers, February 6th and 7th. That weekend of February, we're gonna be there. I made the awards for the show. So if you're bringing a car, hopefully you get a chance to bring one of those home. I keep saying it, it's only because I'm super excited, but we are bringing home another car from South Florida. And there's another one we're going to look at while we're down there. Yeah, anyway, we might make Kayla drive something home all the way to New Hampshire from Florida. Stay tuned for that. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. It's free. If you guys want to continue seeing these videos come together, it helps the channel grow in a massive way and it's free to you guys. So hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. You guys will be notified every time a new video goes up. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see some of you guys in Florida in just a few weeks. Stay tuned. I'm going to announce what we're bringing home. All of you over on the Patreon, you already know what's going on. You know how jazzed I am about this. If you want to help support the channel and the shop in a direct and huge way, the Patreon link is in the video's description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're driving this thing soon. Down the road. We'll see you guys in the next episode.